Hi there, welcome to Fantasy Hub. I'm Mia, your storyteller. Today's story is filled with heartache, discovery, and a twist you won't see coming. So let's begin.
Picture this, me, Dr. Christina Murphy, standing in my pristine laboratory at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, coffee growing cold as I peer through a microscope at olivine crystals. My life was as structured as the mineral lattice I studied wake at 5:30. Lab by 6, lunch at exactly noon. Home by 7 p.m. to my spotless apartment where every book was alphabetized and every surface gleamed. I'd been divorced for 3 years by then. Richard left because, in his words, I was married to my rocks. He wasn't entirely wrong. After 22 years of marriage that felt more like a convenient research partnership, I found solace in things that didn't argue, didn't leave dishes in the sink, and didn't roll their eyes when I got excited about feldspar formations. My colleagues thought I was content. Lucky Christina, they'd say, no messy relationships to distract from your work. And I let them believe it because admitting loneliness felt like confessing to a fundamental structural flaw in my carefully constructed life. But that Tuesday morning, everything changed when my lab assistant burst in with news about a gemology conference in Portland. Dr. Murphy, you have to see this presenter. She's doing revolutionary work with raw stone jewelry design. Her name's Bella Santos, and she's different. That word should have been my first warning. The conference hall, buzzed with the usual crowd, mostly men in their 50s and 60s, a few younger graduate students scribbling notes. Then the lights dimmed, and she walked onto the stage. Bella Santos was a revelation in human form, where I favored sensible blazers and low heels. She wore a flowing emerald dress that seemed to shift colors as she moved, her dark hair cascading in waves over one shoulder. But it was her hands that caught my attention, first paint-stained fingers that moved like a conductor's as she spoke, coaxing magic from the air itself. Gems aren't meant to be perfect, she said, her voice carrying easily through the auditorium. Beauty lies in the flaws, the inclusions, the rough edges that tell a story. She held up a piece of raw opal, and under the stage lights, it exploded into a symphony of blues and greens. This stone has been underground for millions of years. Why would we want to polish away its history? I found myself leaning forward, arms uncrossed for the first time in hours. Around me, the academic crowd murmured politely, but I was transfixed. When she spoke about crystal structures, she wasn't reciting textbook knowledge, she was describing old friends. After her presentation, I lingered by the coffee station, pretending to read the conference program while watching her field questions. She was patient with the skeptics, passionate with the curious, and absolutely devastating when she smiled. "Excuse me, Dr. Murphy?" I turned, and there she was, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something warm and spicy that made me think of desert afternoons. "Bella Santos," she said, extending one of those paint-stained hands. "I've read your paper on synthetic crystal growth. Brilliant work." Her grip was firm, warm, and lasted just a second longer than professionally necessary. "Thank you," I managed. "Your presentation was ... enlightening." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Enlightening? From a professor, I'll take that as high praise." "I'm curious," I heard myself saying, "about your methods. The way you preserve the natural formations while still creating wearable pieces. It goes against everything I was taught about jewelry making." Her eyes lit up. "That's because traditional jewelry making is terrified of imperfection, but what if imperfection is the point? What if the crack in the stone is what lets the light in?" I should have made my excuses then. Should have returned to my hotel room, filed her business card in my briefcase, and forgotten about the way her eyes sparkled when she talked about her work. Instead, I heard myself saying, Would you like to continue this discussion over drinks? The hotel bar was dimly lit, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind of place I normally avoided. But sitting across from Bella, watching her gesture animatedly as she described her latest commission for a local drag queen, I felt oddly at home. You work with drag performers? I asked, genuinely curious. Are you kidding? They're my best clients. Who else has the courage to wear a 20-pound headpiece covered in uncut garnets? She grinned. Plus, they understand that true beauty comes from transformation, from taking something raw and making it spectacular without losing its essence. I sipped my whiskey neat because complicated drinks were for people who hadn't already complicated. There lives enough. It sounds chaotic. It is gloriously chaotic. She leaned forward, her bright cocktail forgotten. Tell me something, Dr. Murphy. When's the last time you did something that scared you? The question hit like a seismic tremor. When had I last taken a risk? When had I last felt truly alive instead of just efficiently existing? I don't know, I admitted. See, that's the difference between us. You study rocks to understand them. I study rocks to free them. Her fingers traced the rim of her glass, and I found myself watching the hypnotic motion. You're not what I expected, Dr. Murphy. What did you expect? Someone older, more rigid, less... She paused, considering, less beautiful. The word hung between us like a suspended crystal, catching light from angles I didn't know existed. I felt heat creep up my neck, and suddenly the bar felt too small, too warm. I should go, I said, already reaching for my purse. But her hand covered mine on the table. Should or want to? The touch sent electricity up my arm. 26 years since I'd felt anything like it. Not since my undergraduate days when everything was possibility and passion. I looked down at our joined hands, her young skin against mine, and felt something fundamental shift in my carefully calibrated world. I want to stay, I whispered. What followed was the most impulsive thing I'd done since deciding to major in geology against my parents' wishes. We talked until the bar closed, then moved to the hotel lobby, then when even that grew too public to my room. I expected awkwardness. I expected to feel every one of my 51 years. Instead, as Bella sat cross-legged on my precisely made bed, examining the rock samples I traveled with, I felt ageless. This is beautiful, she said, holding up a piece of raw amethyst to the lamplight. Look how the inclusions create patterns. It's like looking at frozen music. Frozen music, I repeated. I've never heard it described that way. That's because you're thinking like a scientist. Sometimes you have to think like an artist. She set the amethyst aside and looked at me with those dark, luminous eyes. Can I ask you something personal? I nodded, though every instinct screamed danger. When's the last time someone really saw you? Not Dr. Murphy, the acclaimed mineralogist, but Christina the woman. The question cracked something open inside me. I'm not sure anyone ever has. That's a crime, she said softly, because you're extraordinary. Before I could protest or deflect or do any of the things I perfected over decades of emotional self-preservation, she kissed me. It was nothing like the careful, polite kisses I'd shared with Richard. This was elemental, urgent, and sweet, and completely consuming. Her hands cupped my face, thumbs brushing away tears. I didn't realize I was crying. We shouldn't, I breathed against her lips. Why not? Because you're 25. Because I'm your elder by decades. Because this is insane. Because it scares you, she said, not accusingly, but gently, like she understood fear as a geological formation to be studied and appreciated. Terrifies me, I corrected. Good. Terror means you're alive. I flew back to Boston the next morning with Bella's number in my phone and her taste still on my lips. For 3 days, I tried to return to normal. I cataloged samples, reviewed, grant applications, attended faculty meetings, but everything felt muted, like viewing the world through thick glass. On Thursday, she called. "I have a proposition," she said without preamble. "There's this competition coming up. RuPaul's Drag Race is hosting a gemstone runway challenge, and I want to collaborate with someone who really understands the science behind stones." "You want me to help with the drag competition?" "I want you to help me create something revolutionary. Imagine scientifically accurate crystal growth combined with avant-garde design. We could change how people think about both geology and jewelry." It was absurd. It was career suicide. It was exactly the kind of project that would have my colleagues questioning my judgment and my department head raising eyebrows. "When do we start?" I heard myself saying. The next week, I found myself on a plane to Portland, my carefully organized life packed into a single suitcase. Bella met me at the airport, radiant in jeans and a paint-splattered tank top, looking nothing like the polished presenter from the conference. "Ready for chaos?" she asked, grabbing my bag. "As ready as I'll ever be." Her studio was everything my lab wasn't, crystals and gems scattered across every surface. Sketches taped to walls, works in progress hanging from the ceiling like geological wind chimes. In the center of it all stood the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, 6 feet tall in heels, with skin like burnished copper and a presence that commanded attention. "Christina, meet Miss Tara," Bella said. "Tara, this is the brilliant scientist I told you about." Miss Tara extended a perfectly manicured hand. "Honey, any woman who can make our Bella light up like a Christmas tree is welcome in my world." I felt myself blush as Bella shot her friend a look. "Tara's going to be our model for the competition piece." "What did you have in mind?" I asked, setting down my equipment case. Bella's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Something that's never been done before. I want to create a gown that incorporates live crystal growth." The next 2 weeks were the most exhilarating of my professional life. Working with Bella was like dancing with a force of nature. She'd spin an impossible idea. I'd find a way to make it scientifically sound, and together we'd create something neither of us could have imagined alone. Our masterpiece was a corset embedded with seed crystals that would continue growing throughout the competition, fed by a hidden solution system I designed. The skirt featured graduated layers of raw gems that caught light like captured starfire. It was part fashion, part science experiment, part art installation. "It's alive," Tara breathed when we fitted her for the final time. "I can actually feel it changing." "That's the point," Bella said, adjusting a cluster of amethyst at the shoulder. "Beauty that evolves, grows, becomes more itself over time." She looked at me as she said it, and I felt that familiar flutter in my chest. We'd been working so closely, our hands constantly brushing as we adjusted crystals or checked connections. The tension between us was palpable, but we'd maintained professional boundaries until the night before the competition. We were alone in the studio, making final adjustments. Bella was on her knees, stitching a loose crystal back into place, when suddenly she looked up at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Christina," she said softly, "what happens after tomorrow?" The question I'd been avoiding. "You mean with the project?" "I mean with us." I knelt beside her on the floor, surrounded by glittering fragments of our collaboration. "I don't know. This whatever this is. It's not exactly in my wheelhouse." "What is in your wheelhouse?" "Predictable things, stable things, things that don't challenge everything I thought I knew about myself." She reached up and touched my face, her palm warm against my cheek. "Do you want to go back to predictable?" "I should want that," I whispered. "It would be safer, but do you?" The answer rose from somewhere deeper than logic, somewhere more primal than fear. "No, God help me, no." This time, when she kissed me, I didn't hesitate. I kissed her back with 26 years of pent-up passion, with the desperate hunger of someone who'd been starving without realizing it. We made love right there on the studio floor, surrounded by crystals and half-finished dreams. And it was messy and perfect and nothing like the careful, scheduled intimacy I'd known before. The competition was a disaster, not the performance. Tara was magnificent, the gown was a triumph, and we won the entire challenge. The disaster was what happened after. As we celebrated backstage, my phone buzzed with messages. Colleagues who'd seen the live stream, department heads who'd heard about my extracurricular activities. Richard, my ex-husband, sending a single text. Midlife crisis, Chris? Really? But the worst was the conversation I overheard between two young queens near the dressing room. Bella's really dating that old lady? Girl, it's giving sugar mama vibes. You think she's paying for this whole operation? Must be nice, having a professor wrapped around your finger. The words hit like hammer, blows to uncut stone. Everything I'd feared, every insecurity I'd pushed down, came flooding back. I was the old woman, the convenient benefactor, the midlife crisis cliché. When Bella found me in the bathroom 20 minutes later, I was splashing cold water on my face, trying to compose myself. There you are. Tara wants to take us out to celebrate. She stopped when she saw my expression. What's wrong? This was a mistake, I said, not meeting her eyes. What was a mistake? All of it. The project. Whatever this is between us, I'm going back to Boston. Christina, what happened? 5 minutes ago, we were on top of the world. I finally looked at her, this brilliant, vibrant woman who deserves someone who wouldn't drag her down with decades of baggage. You should be with someone your own age, someone who fits into your world. You think I care about age? You should. Everyone else does. Everyone else isn't living our life. Her voice cracked with frustration. Christina, please, just talk. To me, what's really going on? But I was already gathering my things, professional armor sliding back into place. Thank you for an educational experience. Good luck with your career. The look on her face nearly broke my resolve. Hurt, confusion, and something that might have been love all tangled together. But I forced myself to walk away because wasn't that what responsible adults did? Wasn't that what love required, protecting the other person from your own damage? Back in Boston, I threw myself into work with religious fervor. I accepted every speaking engagement, every research opportunity, every committee assignment that would keep my mind occupied. My colleagues were pleased to have the old Christina, back-focused, professional, unmarked by messy emotional entanglements. But late at night, in my perfectly ordered apartment, I found myself staring at the piece of raw opal Bella had given me that first night. It sat on my nightstand like an accusation, all fire and possibility trapped in stone. I didn't hear from her for 2 months. Then, one Tuesday evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Tara, stunning even in casual clothes, holding a portfolio. Dr. Murphy, she said with that megawatt smile. We need to talk. I invited her in, offered coffee, made small talk about Boston weather. Finally, she set down her cup and fixed me with a look that could have cut diamonds. Honey, you broke my girl's heart. I did what was best for who? Because it sure wasn't best for Bella. You want to see what you did to her? She opened the portfolio, spreading photographs across my coffee table. They were all jewelry pieces, but not like Bella's earlier work. These were harsh, angular, deliberately ugly. Broken crystals set in twisted metal. Beautiful stones, deliberately fractured and left sharp-edged. She calls it her abandonment collection, Tara said dryly. Guess who inspired it? I stared at the images, seeing my own pain reflected in every jagged edge. Why are you showing me this? Because You're both idiots. You're sitting here playing martyr, and she's destroying herself trying to process why the woman she loves walked away without explanation. I stopped, the words catching in my throat. Oh, honey, you didn't know? That girl is head over heels. Write poetry about your eyes. Name rocks after you, in love with you. Has been since that first conference. The room spun slightly. She never said, what was she supposed to say? You ran faster than a tourist leaving Boston in February. Tara leaned forward. Let me ask you something, Dr. Murphy. Do you love her? The question I'd been avoiding for 2 months. But surrounded by images of Bella's broken art, looking at the evidence of pain I'd caused, I couldn't lie anymore. Yes, I whispered. God help me, yes. Then fix this. Before you both turn into bitter old women with nothing but regrets and research papers. I flew to Portland the next day with nothing but a carry-on bag and the opal from my knitstand. I'd rehearsed speeches, crafted explanations, prepared logical arguments for why we could make this work. But when Bella opened her studio door, looking thinner and tired and still impossibly beautiful, all my careful words evaporated. You came back, she said, not moving to let me in. I was an idiot. Yeah, you were. No mercy in her voice, but no hatred either. Can I come in, please? She stepped aside, and I entered the studio that had once felt like home. Now it felt like a crime scene. The beautiful chaos was gone, replaced by the harsh pieces from Tara's photographs. Everything sharp, everything broken. Your new work, I said carefully. It's single quotes powerful. It's honest. She sat on a stool, arms crossed defensively. So why are you here, Christina? Come to collect the rest of your equipment? I came to apologize and to tell you that I love you. She went very still. What? I love you. I've loved you since that first night in the hotel bar, and leaving you was the stupidest thing I've ever done. Which, given some of my career choices, is saying something. Then why did you leave? I sat across from her, the broken jewelry. Between us like accusations, because I was scared. Because 26 years feels like a lifetime. Because I convinced myself I was protecting you from this. I gestured to myself. From a middle-aged woman with more baggage than Anne. Airport carousel. You don't get to decide what's good for me, she said quietly. I know that now. But Bella, I need you to understand I've never done this before. The age gap, the public attention, the sheer intensity of what I feel for you, ... It terrifies me. Do you think it doesn't terrify me too? Her voice cracked. Do you think falling in love with a woman 26 years older, in a field dominated by men who already question my credibility, is easy for me? Then why? Because some things are worth being scared for? She stood pacing among her broken creations. Because when I'm with you, I feel like I can create anything, solve any problem, be anyone I want to be. Because you look at my work like it matters, like I matter. You do matter. You matter more than I know how to express. She stopped pacing, tears streaming down her face. Then why did you leave me to figure that out alone? I had no answer, except honesty, because I'm a coward. Because I spent so many years believing I wasn't worth loving that when you offered it, I panicked. And now, I pulled the opal from my pocket, holding it out to her. Now I want to be brave enough to deserve you. She took the stone, cradling it like something precious. This doesn't fix everything, Christina. You hurt me. Badly. I know. And I'll spend however long it takes making it up to you if you'll let me. She was quiet for a long moment, studying the opal's shifting colors. Finally, she looked up. I have conditions. Anything. No more running. If you're scared, if you're doubting, if the world gets too loud, you talk to me. We figure it out together. Yes. And no more deciding what's best for me without asking me. I'm a grown woman, Christina. I can handle whatever comes. Yes, and. She paused, a small smile finally breaking through. You have to help me. Destroy all this angry art and make something beautiful instead. I laughed, relief flooding through me like sunlight. I thought you'd never ask. Rebuilding trust is like growing crystals. It requires the right conditions, infinite patience, and faith in the process. We started slowly, spending days dismantling Bella's broken pieces and salvaging the beautiful stones within. Working side by side, we slowly found our rhythm again. I moved to Portland permanently 6 months later. The university wasn't thrilled, but they couldn't argue with the grant money our collaborative research was bringing in. Turns out, combining geological expertise with artistic innovation made use very attractive to foundations interested in interdisciplinary work. Our first major project together was a public art installation at the Portland Museum of Science. Living wall embedded with crystals that grew and changed throughout the exhibit's run. We called it Time Made Visible, and it drew visitors from around the world. More importantly, it drew us closer together. Every late night in the lab, every early morning adjusting the growth solutions, every moment of celebration when a new formation emerged, we were building something that belonged entirely to us. The age difference didn't disappear. Sometimes when we attended events together, I'd catch disapproving looks or hear whispered comments. Bella faced questions about my influence on her work, while I dealt with colleagues who assumed she was some kind of midlife distraction, but we learned to face it together. When a particularly snide journalist asked Bella if she was using her relationship for career advancement, I watched her straighten her shoulders and respond with devastating grace. Dr. Murphy is the most brilliant scientist I've ever met, she said calmly. If anything, she's elevated my work beyond what I could have achieved alone. As for our relationship, love doesn't ask permission from people who've never experienced it. That night, I kissed her so hard we nearly knocked over a display case of rare minerals. 2 years after our reconciliation, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this extraordinary woman. The only question was how to propose to someone whose creativity constantly amazed me. The answer came during one of our cave expeditions. We were collecting samples from a geode cave in Oregon, the walls glittering with natural crystal formations. Bella was photographing a particularly spectacular cluster when she suddenly went quiet. Christina, she breathed. Look at this. I followed her gaze to a section of the cave wall where water had carved a natural alcove, perfectly framing a formation of clear quartz crystals. The afternoon light filtering through the cave entrance hit the crystals just right, sending rainbows dancing across the stone walls. It's perfect, I said, like nature's own cathedral. It's where I want to marry you, she said simply. My heart stopped. Are you proposing? Maybe. Depends on whether you have a ring hidden in that geology bag of yours. I started laughing, the sound echoing off the cave walls. Actually, ... I pulled out the ring box I'd been carrying for 3 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. Inside was a diamond I'd grown myself in the lab, set in a band that incorporated fragments of stone from every place we'd explored together. Bella Santos, I said, kneeling on the cave floor in a puddle of rainbow light. Will you marry me? She tackled me into the dirt before I could finish the question, covering my face with kisses and getting mud all over my carefully chosen proposal. Outfit, yes, she laughed against my lips. Yes, obviously yes. Planning a wedding with Bella was like everything else about loving her chaotic. Beautiful and completely unlike anything I'd experienced before. She wanted the ceremony in the crystal cave where I'd proposed. I wanted something smaller, more intimate. She wanted Tara to officiate. I wanted my stuffy academic friends to feel comfortable. In the end, we compromised, which meant Bella got everything she wanted and somehow made it work for everyone. The wedding was held on a perfect spring day with portable lighting equipment to illuminate the cave properly and a carefully planned guest list that included everyone from drag queens to department heads. My parents, initially suspicious of my lifestyle change, were completely charmed by Bella within 5 minutes of meeting her. My ex-husband Richard even attended, bringing his new wife and a surprisingly thoughtful gift. But the moment that took my breath away was when Bella appeared at the cave entrance in her dress, a creation that seemed to capture starlight itself, with tiny LED lights woven among real crystals, so she literally glowed as she walked toward me. Tara, resplendent in flowing robes and a crystal crown, began the ceremony with words that made even my most academic colleagues wipe their eyes. Love, she said in that commanding voice that could quiet any room, is the rarest mineral of all. It forms under pressure, grows in darkness, and emerges more beautiful for having survived the journey. Today we celebrate two women who had the courage to dig deep enough to find it. When we exchanged vows, I finally found the words I'd been searching for since that first night in Portland. Bella, I said, my voice carrying clearly in the natural acoustics of the cave, you taught me that the most beautiful things in nature aren't the ones that follow the rules. You showed me that imperfection isn't a flaw to be fixed, but a story to be celebrated. You took my carefully ordered world and filled it with color, with chaos, with more love than I knew existed. I promised to spend the rest of my life growing alongside you, supporting your dreams, and being brave enough to deserve the incredible gift of your love. Her vows made me cry so hard I probably ruined my carefully applied makeup. Christina, she said, taking my hands in hers, you gave me the foundation I didn't know I needed. You showed me that knowledge and creativity aren't opposites, but partners in the dance of discovery. You took my wild ideas and made them real, then helped me dream even bigger. I promised to challenge you, support you, create with you, and love you with every facet of my heart for as long as crystals grow and stars shine. When Tara pronounced us married, the entire cave erupted in cheers that seemed to make the crystals themselves sing.